Hello all, welcome to service. This is Swami Davuri. Hope everyone is doing good. Let's start this session. So I hope everyone got a chance to look previous video about the fundamentals and what is AWS, how we do in AWS, general architecture. So that's why I hope everyone got a chance to look at that. So where you see that like the general architecture that we define. So we already discussed about this one. So the next thing that we want to discuss is AWS compute. So to understand the fundamentals of AWS is critical. If you want to deploy services and resources within the AWS cloud, the compute category of services are key resources that allow you to carry out computational ability by a series of instructions used by applications and systems. These resources cover a range of different services and features. And the resources are EC2, Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud. Next one is ECS, Amazon Elastic Container Service. Third one, ECR, Amazon Elastic Container Registry. And the fourth, Amazon Elastic Container Services for the Kubernetes, and AWS Elastic Beanstalk, AWS Lambda, AWS Batch, and Amazon Lightsail. So if you go okay, so we are going to spend much time on EC2 because this is the important and as well as is the first compute services that you will encounter when working with AWS. As EC2 is one of the most common compute services used within AWS, and EC2 is the first compute service that you will encounter when working with AWS. And EC2 allow you to deploy virtual servers within your AWS environment, and most people will require an EC2 instance within their environment as part of at least one of their solutions. There are the number of elements in creating your EC2 instance, which I want to break down and explain. This will hopefully help to define how the services works, and it answers most of the questions that you might have. And EC2 services can be broken into uh, following components like Amazon Machine Images, and next AMIs, instance types, instant purchasing options, and tenancy, user data, storage options, security, and so on. So let's go and discuss about Amazon Mission Images. These are the essential templates of pre-configured EC2 instances which allowed you to quickly launch a new EC2 instance based upon the configuration within the AMI. And this provide you from having to install an operating system or any other common application that you might need to install on a number of other EC2 instances. From parallel prospect an image baseline that will include an operating system and application along with any custom configurations. AWS provide large number of AMIs covering different operating systems from Linux to Red Hat and to Microsoft Windows and among others. When configuration your EC2 instance, select your AMI first configuration choice you need to make, and you can also create your own AMI image to help you speed up your own deployment. So this is the first tab that will show up when you look into the um, when you log into the console and see for any one of the if we click the EC2 instance, where you will go with the quick start first, quick start, and where you see that like okay Amazon Linux AMI instance, and if you scroll down, then you might see that the number of instances over here. All these are mission images. That means like the operating system is installed and there is a predefined configuration that is configured. The next one is my AMI. So if you create any AMI, then that will be available under my AMIs. Next one, AWS Marketplace. In AWS Marketplace, you use that marketplace like okay, so there is a few different images is available from the different vendors with the customized and configurations, and those images that you can buy, and you can configure those images for your EC2 instance. Next one is community AM size. There is a few community AM files also is available. Those you can use if you want to configure for your application. Next. Also, instance types simply define the size of instance based upon the number of different parameters. Next, okay, if the instances size are there, like okay, here, if you see that vCPU, this is the number of virtual CPUs on instance, and physical processor. This is the process speeds used to on instances. On clock speed, it's also it clock speeds in gigahertz. Next, here the memory, the amount of memory associated for this instance. Next, once the memory is completed, next instance storage. Um, this is the capacity of the local instance storage volume available for instance. Next one is ESB optimized available. This defines if the instance supports ESB optimized storage or not. Next, network performance. This shows the performance level of the rate of the data transfer. Next, VP6 support. This is simply indicates if the instance type supports IPv6 or not. Next, the process architecture. This shows the architecture type of the process. Next, AES-NI. This stands for Advanced Encryption Standard and new instructions. and it shows if the instance supports enhanced data protection or not. Next, AVX. This indicates if the instance supports AVX, and which is advanced vector extensions, which are primarily used for application to focus on audio and video, scientific calculators, and 3 modeling analysis. Next one is a turbo, which shows if the instance supports Intel Turbo Boost and AMD Turbo Core technologies. And the key parameters here to preliminarily be aware of the general use of EC2 instance. Could it be summarized? vCPU and memory, instance storage, and network performance. But obviously, this is really depends upon your local actual uses of the applications. Having this flexibility of variant instances, uh, and it will allow you to select most appropriate size or power of an instance that you need for optimal performance within your applications. Um, so instance purchasing options. So Amazon will provide you the following purchase options to enable you to optimize your cost based upon your needs. Those are on-demand instance. That means like, okay, so the moment that you launch and you pay to Amazon by seconds. Next, saving plan. Okay, the next saving plan is reduced your Amazon EC2 cost by making a commitment to the consistent amount of usage. If you know that like consistent amount of usage, then you can specify that like okay, 1 year or 2 year the time frame, then that will reduce the cost. Next, reserved instances. um, Reduce Amazon EC2 cost by making commitment to the consistent instance configuration, include instance type and region for like okay 1 year or 3 years time. It's like okay, you can buy on like okay, you can put instance and region in one type that we will discuss on that further. On spot instances, that means like request unused EC2 instances, which can reduce your Amazon EC2 cost significantly. So you can build that, uh, so any amount for your resources that is available on your on your region, and Amazon will provide you for that cost. So dedicate hosts. So dedicated hosts are the pay for physical host that will fully dedicated to running your instances and bring you existing per socket, per core, per VM software license to reduce the costs. That means you will be asking that Amazon to host your instances on dedicated hardware platforms. So those are not going to shared by anyone. So like you were creating it on zone for you, like dedicated hosts, dedicated instances, pay by hours for the instances that's on single tenant hardware. So that means like okay, so in a hardware like okay, you can create like your own instances that's not going to be shared with anyone. And capacity reservations. Reserve a capacity for your EC2 instance in a specific available zone for any duration. So you can reserve the capacity on particular zone and you can use those. The next topic is tenancy. EC2 tenancy, this is related to what underlying host your EC2 instances will reside on. So essentially, the physical server within AWS data center. There are the different options available to you with pros and cons to each. First, shared tenancy. This option uh, will launch your EC2 instances on any available host with specified resource required for your selected instance type, regardless of which other customers and users also have EC2 instances running on same host. Hence, the shared tenancy name. So, and AWS implemented advanced security mechanism to prevent one EC2 instance from accessing another on the same host. The security operations and maintained by AWS themselves. Next one, dedicated tenants. This include both dedicated instances and dedicated hosts. Dedicated instances are hosted on hardware that no other customer can access. It can only be accessed by your own AWS account. Okay, and you may require to launch your instances as dedicated instances due to internal security policies or external compliance controls. Dedicated instances do additional charge due to you are preventing other customers from running EC2 instances on same hardware, so there will be likely unused capacity. Remember, unused capacity, I think it will be remaining there. However, the hardware might be shared by other resources you have running on your own account. A dedicated host is effectively the same as dedicated instance. However, AWS offers additional visibility and control. So you can place your instances on the physical host, or they will also allow you to use your existing licenses, such as like PV-VMs licenses or Windows Server license and etc. Using dedicated hosts and give you the ability to use the same host for a number of instances that you want to launch and align with any compliance and regularity requirements. If you do not address any compliance or security issues that require dedicated tenancy, then would recommend using a shared tenancy to reduce overall cost. Next one is user data. User data, um, so during the configuration of your EC2 instance, there is a section called user data, which allows you to enter commands that will run during the first boot cycle of the instance. So this is the great way to automatically perform functions upon boot, such as pull down any additional software that you want to install from any software repository you might have. You could also download and get latest OS updates during the boot. For example, you could enter m update dash for the Linux instances, which then will update its own softwares automatically at the time of the uh, boost, like at the time of the booting. Next, uh, storage options. As part of the configurations when setting up EC2 instance, you are asked to select and configure your storage requirement. Selecting a storage for your EC instances will depend upon the instance selected. What you intended to use the instances for and how critical the data is based upon the storage for EC2 can be classified between the two distinct categories. One is like persistence storage. Next, ephemeral storage. That's like temporary storage. Ephemeral means temporary. So persistence storage is available by attaching elastic block storage (EBS) volumes, and ephemeral storages is created by EC2 instances themselves using a local storage on underlining the host known as instance back storage. So when I showed you the images, that times I showed you that uh, both instance back storage and EPS. Let's look at each of the storage options little bit in depth. Okay, EBS volumes are separate devices from the EC2 instance itself, and so it is not physically attached like ephemeral ephemeral storage. UPS volumes are considered network attached storage devices, which logically attached to EC2 instances via AWS network. Example like attaching external hard disk to your home laptop or PC. The data on EBS volumes are automatically replicated to other EBS volumes within the same availability zone for resilience, which is managed by AWS. You can disconnect an EBS volume from your EC2 instance and the data will remain intact, allowing you to reattach it to another EC2 instance if required. You can also implement encryption on these volumes if needed and take a backup snapshots of all this data on the volume to S3. EBS volumes can be created in a different size, again with a different performance capacities, depends upon your requirements. Ephemeral storages or instance backed storages is the storage that's typically attached to underlying host on which EC2 instance resides on. Looking back at previous example, this would be similar to your own laptop or PC hard disk. There is a different here that like AWS EC2 instances, as soon as instance is stopped or terminated, all the saved data on the temporary storage will be lost. And if you reboot your instance, then data will be remained, but not if you stop it. Therefore, like okay, if you have data that you need to retain, it is not recommended that use instance backed storage for this data. Instead of use EBS volume or like the persistency data. Unlike EBS volumes, you are unable to detach from instances storage volumes from the instances. That is like okay options for it. Next, the tags. I think the tags are the most important that you will need uh, for your instances. We can add a key pair value tags to instance. For example, a key of the name and value of uh, value is like okay instance name, anything in my instance, and we can add additional tags as well as you can see Here we can add like um, almost all, like how many, I think 50 of them that you can add tags. And as well as um, here like uh, these tags are why it is so important is, and in this key value pair combinations where you will define like what is the environment, uh, so who is the owner, like whom should we charge for the instances, and what application is running on this instance, and contact persons, and anything that you require for this. Okay, so anything issues will be there. You can add all the information in a key value name. So that's the reason the tagging for instances is very important in the real time. Next one, the security. During the creation of the EC2 instance, and you will be asked to select security group, right? So if you see this image, right? So what is security group? Security group is essentially an instance level firewall allowing you to restrict both ingress and egress traffic by specifying what traffic allowed to communicate with it. You can restrict this communication by source port and protocol for the both inbound and outbound communication. At the very end of your EC2 instance creations, you will need to select, I think, a key pair value also after the security. So if you look into over here, so what we are doing is like, okay, the configuring is like, okay, we are selecting the type of the uh, connection that we want to establish, whether it is SSH or HTTP protocol, HTTP, and the protocol is a TCP, and the port range that you are allowing is 22, and here is 80. And from the source, like you can custom and you can define your own IP address range, or like you can select my IP, or you can select anywhere. So anywhere can access this these instances, and the description that you must provide. So about the rule and everything. Next, so this is like, okay, at the after before you're trying to launch that, so this will ask you that for key pair. What is key pair? The name implies, okay, it's made up of two components, a public and private key. The function of the key pair is to encrypt the login information for the Linux and Windows EC2 instances, and then decrypt the same information, allowing you to authenticate on two instances. Public key encrypts the data such as username and password. For Windows instances, the private key is used to decrypt this data, allowing you to gain access to login credentials and including password. For Linux instances, the private key is used to remotely connect it into instances via SSH. The public key is held and kept by AWS, and the private key is your responsibility to keep and ensure that it's not lost or compromised. So going back, when you create your EC2 instance, a new key pair, uh, and you are giving an opportunity to download the key pair. Once you done, that must be keep that file in the safe until you are ready to log on to the associate EC2 instance. So once you click the launch instance, then it launches the instance, and it will do a pre-checks. Once it's done the pre-checks, the instances is available. Let's do a lab. You will understand. So if you see this screen, so if you click the services, okay, these are all the services are providing by AWS. Like the compute under the compute like UC, ECT, Lightsail, Lambda, and storage, and S3, EFS, and so on, and database, RDS, Dynamo as the fundamental sessions. So we are going to discuss about the compute and storage. The next one is uh, networking and content delivery, where you will discuss about the VPC, CloudFront, and Route 53. And we are going to learn the security, identity, and compliance, and not but not least, the containers. Okay, let's go to the EC2 instance. So if you see the EC2 instance, this is the EC2 instance where you will see that like this is the dashboard of the EC2 instance. And like the previous session that we already discussed, instances, instance types, launch templates, spot instance, so savings plans, unreserved hosts, undedicated host, unscheduled instances, and as well as AMIs. The first thing that we discussed is AMIs. Okay, let's go to the AMIs. You can create or anything that you will do it. Okay, so I will come to this part again. So first let's go to the instances, and first the launch instance, and that you are selecting is Amazon Linux instance. And apart from this, like okay, you have the free licenses. Red Hat you can use it, and SUSE you can use it, and this is all free types. So you can use any one of these types to do with the operations. The next, my AMS. When you will get your own AMS, when you create your AMI, then you will get your AMS here. Next, AWS Marketplace. So in here, like okay, all these Juniper networks, it's like all these images are available. Quality you just need to pay and get it and add it. Okay, there's a community AMIs. So you can use these communities, but like these are not recommended because of the security issues. Okay, let's go for the quick start. And you selected instance. So in instances, okay, you see right, okay, there is a lot of instances type, like okay, based upon the CPU utilization and memory and instance storages that's available based upon that one. So you will have a lot of instances that is available over here. All it is like you have to pick one that is fulfill your requirements. Okay, so I just am selecting the free tail one. Next, I'll go for the configurations. So if you see here, so it is asking okay, how many instances that you want to create. So I'm creating one instance. This is option for the requested spot instances. That's where you pay the amount. So if you get that, okay, the rest of the month you pay the amount. Next, network. So once the moment that you created any AWS account, what it does is it will create your own network. So that is like that own network you use that with that's VPC network. Okay, if you want to create that you can create VPC also. Let's go into there. Virtual private cloud, so that you can create if you want. So that also the topic we'll discuss and we'll cover that too. Okay. Okay. Once you create a network under the network, so what the next thing that it does is, so if you select one region, right? So the moment you select a region, under the regions there will be multiple zones are available, like okay, A, B, C, D. So four zones are available. Let's say assume that okay, you create a subnet for all of these zones: A subnet, B subnet, and D subnet, E subnet. Okay, so that also you can select over here. So we'll have an in-depth discussion about that. Okay, network and subnets, and the next like coming sessions. Next, so public IP. So do you want to specify any public IP? That okay, once it is enabled the public IP, then anyone can access that IP outside that this network. Next, so capacity reservations. Okay, so that's it's not required. And if you want to create a IML role, okay, you can IAM role. Okay, you can create that IAM role and shutdown behavior. So the moment you shut down, like what kind of behavior that you want, that you have to put over here. So this is another step. So you might be using it, okay, protect against okay accidental terminations. So when you select, right, so if you automatically, if you click the termination button, so it does it like it will not do anything. So it will not kill or anything. So it will keep the same thing. So that's the reason you might be selecting this option. Next one is like okay, the monitoring. The next one is a next tenancy, as we discussed earlier. So you can select like okay, dedicated hardware, like shared one, and dedicated host for this one. So based upon that one that you can select. And coming to here, like okay, here is the user data that we will discuss about this one. So where you can type anything that you want to write, or so you can write like why update. So anything that okay, update. So it will automatically update the software in server. Next one, add storage. So here if you see that this is the normal storage that comes with instance. Suppose if you want to add additional storage, that we can add for additional storage for this one. So you just need to click add new, and ESP type, that you need to select a type, and device like okay, so where that you are adding that, and directory, then how much GB that you are going to select, then general purpose, or like general purpose SSD G3, and provisioned and cold, or anything that you select based upon the type that you needed. And if you want to encrypt, okay, you can always use that encryption key, and you can select it. Okay, next, add tags. So in add tags, that you can specify application address. Okay, environment dev. uh, Scott. Okay. Anything which is related to that, like if you want to specify that, always you can specify the tagging and everything for it. So that should be a meaningful user. So next, to manage details and everything. Next, so So by default, each instance is EC2 will come with the default security group that is assigned to it, and where you can create the security group, a new one, or like you can use the existing one too. If you want to use the existing, you have to select existing one and you have to select over here. Or if you want to create, like okay, you can create here and you can give that. Okay, ISG is security group. ISG, the description that you need to specify here. So the type is like SSH, the protocol TCP, the range that you are using is 22, and you are allowing from everywhere. So 0.0.0.0 by 0 means, that means like you are allowing that from everywhere. Next, I'm adding HTTP. I just want to add HTTP. So you can add like okay, protocol, any protocol that you want to add, and the port range you can specify the port also, and you can specify anywhere or my IP. If I click my IP, then it's connected to the my IP address. So that will display over here. Then only the persons from that IP address can access this. Or like, okay, I can specify 10.0.24. So anything related to here. So that I can specify here, or the description related to this. And anywhere that I'm allowing. So next, review and launch. So all together, like okay, we added the tags and everything. So coming to the launch. Okay, when you click the launch button, so yeah, so I think I have to log in again. If I see here that like I can create my own key pair. This key pair I can use to authenticate. So I'm creating my own, and my key just selected as a my key as a name. I downloaded that and I'm saving that. The moment I saved, okay, it's saved, and I just am clicking launch instance. Okay, we'll go over here. So if you see here, right, the state will change after few minutes, and as well as you do it 2 checks: hardware check, resources and hardware check, and the system software configuration check. So once those shows here, then we will discuss about what steps that we need to do and what other data that we need to check. So if you see here, the instances is running and it's able to do a check. So 2 checks are passed. So once you select it, you just need to select. Once you select, so instance state. So you can do any one of these operations. You can stop the instance and redo the instance and terminate the instance. So that's one thing. Next thing, the action that you can perform is that you can connect and you can view the details. You can view the details. So you can check the manage instance. Okay, you can do a manage instance. If you click that, okay, it will change the status of that. Next, actions. You just need to select this one, and like okay, if you want to change the instance settings, that you can change. Okay, adding an auto-scale group. Okay, terminate the protections and shut down the behavior, and create specifications, edit user data, and manage tags. All these details. Okay, that you can check here. Next, networking. Onto the networking, under networking, that like you can attach the network interface or detach the network interface and change the source IP, all these details that you can select. And security, also change the security. If you want to change the security group, then you can make the changes for her. Next, image templates. Okay, create an image out of it, like, so you can use that image for the next time that you want to import, like, okay, and when you want to tag it, okay. And image and templates and monitoring and troubleshooting. Okay, if you want to get system logs, okay, you can get a system logs. And easy to select, okay, serial console and replace root volume of anything that you want to make it, okay, you can make that changes. So those are the operations that you can perform for using this. Okay, earlier that we downloaded, what we did, like, okay, so the important things is like here the monitoring. So the monitoring, the manage monitoring, that, like, okay, you can select, just you can enable the monitoring, and you can apply the details, the transferring the data, and it will show that, okay, the dashboard. So if you see the dashboard, like, okay, the CPU utilizations and status checks, okay, network package, okay, the count, like all the discretes, okay, discrete utilizations, CPU and credit card balance, okay, CPU credit balance, and as well as CPU credit usage, all these details that you can see over here, all these things, okay. So that, like, once you selected that, like, the possibility is there, and you can see the security information, that what group that you added, like what and all ports that you added, all these details. And the networking, and the networking is like what is the public IP, what is the private IP, and what is the EPC and subnet and public domain DNS name. All these details that you can see in this tab. And storage details, if you add any storage, that storage details available here. And the status check and monitoring, status check, there is a two important, like, okay, so two status checks will be there. So one is like, okay, system reached check passed, and instance reached check pass, okay, this is a system status check and instance status check, okay. So if you're having any one of the actions, okay, so then you need to perform it. And the tags that we get, application and WordPress, okay, these are the tags that we added for this application. Until here, what is happened, we just created it, like, the instance. Now what is the step, that next step that we do is, like, okay, we just go to the volumes. Okay, so that we already discussed, right, image and everything. So uh, new image, okay, the details that you can so see here, like, okay, next to the volumes. If you go to the volumes, okay, I just want to, already there is what is existing volume, that is existing volume pointed to the EC2 instance, EC2 instances, right. Now I'm going to create another volume, okay, create new. So purpose of that, okay, you have to select the volume type, that you are going to select the volume type, which type of the volume that you want to select, and like how much that you want to give, like, okay, just I'm giving 10 GB. And so where is the zone that they want to create, like, okay, so wherever the instances are created, that is the zone that we need to specify, that we need to create it, okay. The instances has been created into the US West 2A zone, so I'm going to create over here. And if you want to encrypt this volume, that you can encrypt. And if you want to add a tags, okay, the tag means, like, okay, you can specify that which application and which server that you are adding this volume and everything, those details that you can specify here. So as of now, I'm not doing anything, I just am selecting and just am creating it. So the volume is created. So let's go here. So the volume that I created is 10 GB volume, so that is available right now. So this volume is available, and this is the volume that is available, okay. If you see that, okay, the size is 10 gig, and status is available, and the created date, and whether it is encrypted, no. So status checks over here, monitoring details, and the tags, that if you add any tag, okay, that will be available here. Once it is done, okay, you have to perform action for it, okay. Action, attach volume. So I'm going to attach this volume. So where that, okay, I'm going to attach no match, okay, so there is nothing is found. The reason is we don't have anything, any instance that created on US West 2A zone. So what you have to do is, we just have to go there and select dashboard and see the instance. So where the instance is created, the instance is created ES West zone 2B. So again, we are going to create in the volumes and create a volume, that I'm going to create a new volume, and I'm specifying a 10 gig. and I'm going to create in 2B, then create volume. So this is the volume that I created in 2B. The one earlier one is 2A, right? So once it is creating, once it is available, then we will use that. So until that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this volume which I created earlier. So this is available. Now see that, okay, this is available. Now action and attach volume instance. Okay, there is one instance that is running. Okay, I just selected. Okay, so there was SDF. And I'm just doing attach. So what is doing is it attaching it. Let's attach, and you can see that the details, what is happening. Monitoring section. Census types. Okay. Volumes. We'll wait for a couple of minutes. Okay, so the now that okay status is changed to in use. That means this instance is attached to this volume. It is attached to instance. Now we need to connect that. All right. Now what I'm doing is it's like I'm trying to connect with the server. Okay. To connect with the servers, first okay, you have to go to your dashboard and instances. That's okay, if you click that, okay, so you get that public IP, right? The earlier that I created a key, so this is the key, my key. Then what you have to do is you have to make the parameter change. Permission change. So the permission got changed. Next. So how do we connect? SSH, I, and my key, the time, and we'll give an IP address, user and IP address. Okay, just copy it. And user is DCT user at the rate IP address. Yes. Right. Now I am in this mission. Okay. AWS present working directory, let's happen already, nothing is there. If you want to go back, okay, and root level, okay, you can go back and see what and all directories are available. Okay, temp directory, dev directory, root, home directory, and wire file, and everything is available. Suppose if I want to see the file system that okay, the volume mount that is configured, ls lk. So if you see here, right? So the one that we created, XVDF, this is the 10 gig by default. It came with disk. The next that what we are going to do is okay, let's create a file system. So to create a file system, what you have to do is sudo mkfs, okay, file systems, okay, -t, the extension ext4, -dev, and xvdf. Right, so it's created a file system. Now let's make a directory. Test directory. Okay, and let's mount the this type directory to the file system. Okay, what we are going to do is, okay, sudo and dev cdf as test. Okay, so how do we check? df-h, you can check. See, there is a point two is using for the cache, but the rest is available over here. So 9.2 percentage, and that folder is created, and you can use that. Okay, yes, the okay command where it will display that, okay, the information that I created under this disk. So this is how that I create the file system. Now what I'm doing is I just doing the experiment. Okay, all right, just going there. Okay, I'm selecting this. Okay, I'm doing, I'm detaching the volume. Okay, are you sure you want to detach the volume? Yes, please. Now I detach the volume. Let's wait for the minute. In the meantime, what we do is we'll go there and we are going to launch another instance. Okay, the same configuration, but I'm not making any change. No, I'm not making any change. I'm not adding it. So I'm not making any change on the security group too. We will launch. Okay, I'm going to use existing key. So my key I'm going to use launch instance. Okay, let's go for the instances. There is another one is just happened, and it got created in 2B also. Okay, it got created in 2B, and it is right now, it is coming with, okay, it's ending with E7. Okay, let's go for the volumes. What is happening in this volumes? There is a one thing that, like, okay, is available. Okay, it's in use. Okay, let's refresh. It's still in use. It's not detached yet. It should be available for us to make it. Okay, you can see here, right? This is like still it is attached now. So what you have to do is, like, you have to select your and force to touch, because the reason is we didn't stop that, okay, instance, and we created it. So that's the reason, like, okay, it has happened. So the next one is coming. So the once installation is complete, okay, this will also available and it will also show up here. The the instances name and everything, the installations and everything over here it will show. This is how that you will create the ECC instance and like where you will attach the volume and detach the value. So this is actually that you can do it for your own. So what you have to do is you have to go to the support documents and you go to the documents. The document, what you will do is just like select like EC2 that you want to make it right. So in EC2, use for the guidelines for the Linux instances. So use these guidelines. Under these guidelines, and select okay, tutorial installing the LAMP web server on Amazon Linux. So just complete this one. So if you're able to complete, then you will understand that like it has a steps of how to do, what to do, and everything. So once you've done it, okay, you'll be able to understand like how this works and everything. Thank you. Thank you. And if you like my video, please don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment. So in next session, we'll discuss about the load balance. Thank you.